Rotherhithe is a residential district in southeast London, England, and part of the London Borough of Southwark. It is located on a peninsula on the south bank of the Thames, facing Wapping and the Isle of Dogs on the north bank, and is a part of the Docklands area. It borders Bermondsey to the west and Deptford to the southeast. Rotherhithe has a long history as a port, with many shipyards from Elizabethan times until the early 20th century, and with working docks until the 1970s. In the 1980s, the area along the river was redeveloped as upmarket housing, through a mix of warehouse conversions and new build developments. Following the arrival of the Jubilee Line in 1999 and the London Overground in 2010, the rest of Rotherhithe is now a rapidly gentrifying residential and commuter area, with current regeneration progressing well around Downtown Road, Rotherhithe Street area, and most quickly around Gill Porter Square at Canada Water, where a new town centre with restaurant and retail units as well as new residential developments is emerging around the existing freshwater dock and transport hub. Etymology. The name Rotherhithe derives from the Anglo-Saxon ʻrʒðərhaɪð, meaning landing place for cattle. The first recorded use of this name was in about 1105, as ʻrʒðərhaɪð. In the past, Rotherhithe was also known as Rotherhithe or Rotherhithe, however, until the early 19th century. This name was applied to the whole riverfront from St Saviour's Dock to Bullhead Dock, this near the entrance to Surrey Water. Description. The docks were closed and largely filled in during the 1980s, and have now been replaced by modern housing and commercial facilities. But Rotherhithe retains much of its character and its maritime heritage. The largest surviving dock on the south bank, Greenland Dock, is the focal point for the southern part of the district, while there are many preserved wharves along the riverside at the north end of Rotherhithe. St. Mary's Church is at the centre of the old Rotherhithe village, which contains various historic buildings including the Brunel engine house at the south end of the Thames Tunnel. Canada Dock was the dock basin furthest away from the River Thames in the Surrey Docks complex, and it was linked to Albion Dock and Greenland Dock at its northern and southeastern extremities via the Albion Canal. The dock has been remodeled, and its northwest half retained as an ornamental lake, renamed Canada Water. The canal has remained as a walkway and water feature within the redeveloped area. Rotherhithe is the former home of the football team, Fisher FC, who currently ground share with Dulwich Hamlet. Although plans are in place for a return in the near future, the local championship team Millwall Football Club are located nearby in the London Borough of Lewisham. The sustainable transport charity Sustrans has proposed the construction of a bicycle and pedestrian swing bridge from Rotherhithe to Canary Wharf, and cost-benefit and feasibility studies were undertaken. In January 2009, the London Mayor Boris Johnson said he would not fund the bridge, citing budget cuts due to the credit crunch, with the result that the project was effectively put on ice. However, the idea is still being supported by Sustrans. There are two Anglican churches in Rotherhithe Street, Mary's Church and Trinity Church. There are two Roman Catholic churches, St. Peter and the Guardian Angels, and Our Lady of the Immaculate Conception. King's Stairs Gardens. King's Stairs Gardens is a small park on the river towards the Bermondsey boundary. In September 2011, Thames Water announced that they wanted to build an access shaft for the supersewer Thames Tunnel. Due to local action by the Save King's Stairs Gardens campaign, which collected over 5,000 signatures, it seems as of March 2011 that Thames Water will build the access shaft elsewhere, if the local community agrees. Local landmarks and history. Seven Islands Leisure Centre occupies the site of the old Rotherhithe Town Hall. The building ceased to be a town hall in 1905 when the former Rotherhithe Council merged with the old Bermondsey Borough Council, and the new council used premises in Spa Road. The old Rotherhithe Town Hall became a library and a museum. It was razed to the ground by repeated bomb hits and near misses during the Second World War. Rotherhithe had its own general hospital, St Olave's Hospital, on Lower Road, close to the old town hall. Built originally in the early 1870s on land adjoining Rotherhithe Workhouse, it became the Infirmary of St Olave's Union in 1875, and was renamed St Olave's Hospital in 1930. Subsequently becoming part of the Guy's Hospital Teaching Group in 1966. It closed in 1985 and the site has been redeveloped into the residential Ann Moss Way, when the roundabout facing the Rotherhithe Tunnel was redeveloped in the early 1980s. Several 19th-century buildings were demolished, including a school and a nunnery. A public house, the Europa, described in an early 20th century history of the area as one its oldest, was also demolished. Max Bygraves frequently played piano there at weekends. Ecclesiastical parish. The ancient parish, dedicated to St. Mary, was in the Diocese of Winchester until 1877, then the Diocese of Rochester until 1905, and then finally in the Diocese of Southwark. From 1840, as the population of Rotherhithe increased, a number of new parishes were formed. Christ Church, Rotherhithe in 1840. All Saints, Rotherhithe in 1842. Holy Trinity, Rotherhithe in 1842. St. Barnabas, Rotherhithe in 1873. In addition, as the population of neighbouring Deptford increased, parts of Rotherhithe parish were included in the new parish of St. Catherine, Rotherhithe in 1886, with parts of St. James, Hatcham. Nordic connection. Because much of the former Surrey docks had strong trade links to Scandinavia and the Baltic region, the area is still home to a thriving Scandinavian community. During World War II, in fact, it housed the Norwegian government in exile. Originally established as seafarers' missions, Rotherhithe is home to a Norwegian, a Finnish and a Swedish church. The Finnish church and the Norwegian church are both located in Albion Street. They were built in 1958 and 1927 respectively. There are also a number of community centres for the Nordic community in London, including hostels, shops and cafes and even a sauna, mostly linked closely to the churches. Some of the redeveloped areas were built by Nordic architects, such as the Greenland Passage development by Danish company KJAER and Richter. This gives some areas a distinctly Nordic feel in terms of house and street design. The relationship with Scandinavia and the Baltic is also reflected in the names of some of the buildings, the street names or other place names. Another major influence factor was trade with Russia and Canada, reflected in names such as Canada Water and the Russia Dock Woodland. Indian connection. Other connections include with the Indian subcontinent, with wharves being named Bombay Court and East India Court. A neo-Indian community has also now found root there, with many young upcoming Indian professionals moving to London to work in the technology, financial services and legal professions. The proximity to the city and Canary Wharf has made this a convenient choice and hub for graduates from the Indian Institutes of Technology. Other connections. Rotherhithe is also a popular place to live with South Africans according to the UK census of 2011, and there is a South African themed pub located at 351 Rotherhithe Street. Mayflower. In July 1620, the Mayflower sailed from Rotherhithe for Southampton on the south coast of England, to begin loading food and supplies for the voyage to New England. At that time, the English separatists, who later became known as the Pilgrim Fathers, were mostly still living in the city of Leiden, in the Netherlands. There they hired a ship called the Speedwell to take them from Delfthaven in the Netherlands to Southampton to meet up with the Mayflower. The ship's captain, Christopher Jones, died shortly after his return in 1621, and he is buried in an unmarked grave at St. Mary's Church. The Mayflower sailed from near a public house called the Shipper in Rotherhithe Street, which was substantially rebuilt in the 18th century. called the Spread Eagle and Crown, and is now named the Mayflower. The building itself, despite external and interior appearances, dates from the 1950s. China Hall on Lower Road, about halfway between Surrey Quays and Canada Water stations, is a public house called the China Hall. At one time it was the entrance to a riparian playhouse visited by Samuel Pepys and mentioned in his diary. It is not known how long the theatre remained on the site, but it was reinvigorated in 1777, and during 1778 George Frederick Cooke acted there. But in the winter of 1779 it was destroyed in fire. The site of the theatre became a well-known tea gardens, with the usual arbours and boxes, during the Victorian period. But by the 1920s most of the gardens had been absorbed into the Surrey commercial docks as part of a timber yard. Second World War. Like the rest of the London docks, the Surrey commercial docks were targeted by the Luftwaffe. On the 7th of September 1940, on the first day of the London Blitz, the deal yards of Surrey docks were set ablaze. The raid ignited over 1 million tons of timber in Quebec Yard, causing the most intense single fire ever seen in Britain. The bombing of the old Rotherhithe town hall during the Second World War gives an indication of how heavy the bombing in Rotherhithe was. Later the same month, the town hall was very severely damaged by a direct hit by a V1 Doodlebug. In November 1944 it was further damaged by near misses, and it was finally destroyed by one of the last V1s to land on London during the Second World War. King Haakon VII made many of his famous radio broadcasts to occupied Norway from St. Olav's Norwegian Church in Rotherhithe, where the Norwegian royal family were regular worshippers during their exile in London. Geography. Rotherhithe is joined to the north bank of the Thames by 3 tunnels. The Thames Foot Tunnel to Wapping was the first underwater tunnel in the world. Built by the Brunels and originally intended to carry cross-river freight, it became a pedestrian tunnel, due to the money running out to build the necessary ramps for vehicle traffic. It was used as a railway tunnel from 1869, and is now part of the London Overground network, which on the 27th of April 2010 started running trains on the route of the former East London Line. The later Rotherhithe Tunnel carries a 2-lane road to Limehouse. The Jubilee Line extension has a railway tunnel to Canary Wharf in the Isle of Dogs. Parts of Rotherhithe Street were at one time or another called Jamaica Street, Lavender Street, Low Queen Street, Redriff Wall, Rotherhithe Wall, Shipwright Street and Trinity Street. Rotherhithe is part of the SE16 postcode district. Electorally, the western half is Rotherhithe Ward of Southwark London Borough Council and the eastern half in Surrey Docks Ward, as much of Rotherhithe was occupied by the now defunct Surrey Commercial Docks. The district is sometimes referred to as Surrey Docks or Surrey Quays, though the latter name tends to be used more for the southern half of the peninsula. An eastern part, which became an island when the docks were in use and the locks open, is called downtown. This name was never related to the idea of a downtown in the American sense, and indeed this part of Rotherhithe has since the 1980s been quiet and suburban in nature. Durand's Wharf is a park located in Rotherhithe Street and holds an outdoor gym. Notable people: Mark Isambard Brunel and his son Isambard Kingdom Brunel built the Thames Tunnel connecting Rotherhithe and Wapping. Max Bygraves, entertainer, was born in Rotherhithe. Michael Caine, actor, was born Morris Joseph Micklewhite in Rotherhithe. Thomas Coram, a philanthropic sea captain, retired to Rotherhithe where he campaigned for establishment of the Foundling Hospital. Eliza Fay, author of Original Letters from India, was born in Rotherhithe. Malcolm Hardy lived on a houseboat in Greenland Dock, Rotherhithe, owned and ran the Wibbly Wobbly pub boat on the same dock, and was drowned there in 2005. Alfred Hitchcock filmed scenes for his first film as director, Number 13, in Rotherhithe before it was pulled from production. Mylene Klass lived in Rotherhithe in the early 2000s. Aaron Manby assembled and launched the world's first seagoing iron-hulled ship at Rotherhithe in 1822. Princess Margaret met her future husband, photographer Tony Armstrong-Jones, in a house in Rotherhithe. Billy Memmott, professional footballer, attended Bacon's College in Rotherhithe in the 1990s. King Mutse II of Buganda died in exile in his flat in Rotherhithe in 1969, following an interview with journalist John Simpson. James Walker worked on the design and construction of Greenland Dock, where a memorial bust of him stands. Main sites: Brunel Engine House, Finnish Church, Canada Water, Southwark Park, Greenland Dock, Russia Dock Woodland, South Dock, Stave Hill, St. Mary's Church, Thames Tunnel, Surrey Docks Farm, Nelson Dock Pier, Cuckolds Point. Transport. Rotherhithe is served by 3 stations. Near the river, in the north, Rotherhithe, formerly a London Underground station, was rebuilt as a London Overground station, and reopened on 27 April 2010, together with Surrey Quays to the south. In between lies Canada Water in central Rotherhithe. Canada Water Station is now an important transport interchange, as it connects the London Overground and the Jubilee line of the London Underground, as well as having a bus station. This station is at the centre of a major regeneration project, with rapid construction of new flats. Other nearby stations are Bermondsey, South Bermondsey Railway Station to the southwest, and London Bridge Railway Station to the west. Walking and cycling the riverbank carries part of the Richmond to Thames Barrier section of the Thames Path through London. Most of the riverbank is accessible, apart from sections where warehouses and estates have established rights to the riverside. A new bridge for pedestrians and cyclists has been proposed between Rotherhithe and Canary Wharf. Buses. The area is served by TfL bus services 147, 188, 199, 225, 381, C10 and P12, and night buses N47 and N381. Taxis. London taxis can often be found on Salter Road. River boat service. Piers. Greenland Dock Pier serviced by Thames Clippers. Docklands Pier for Canary Wharf, Rotherhithe ferry only. Gallery, Mayflower Public House, Albion Channel, Riverside Developments. View from Stave Hill towards Canary Wharf, Russia Dock Woodland.